I'd like to introduce you to one of our sponsors and someone I was genuinely impressed by, Sanju Sriram, the founder of Simple 720. She came out of the tech and gaming world and stumbled onto the excise tax burden around federal health plan compliance, and instead of accepting it, she built infrastructure to fix it. Imagine coming out of gaming and going into taxes. You have to check our episode out for that. But PCORI, ACA reporting, Form 5500s. If you're buried under paperwork and looking for a way out, Simple 720 is an authorized IRS e-file provider that automates the entire process, making compliance simple, accurate, and affordable. If you're a CFO, a TPA, an accounting firm, a broker, this is definitely worth a look. And we've got a Broken Healthcare exclusive for you, 10% off. Click the link in the show notes, use promo code BROKEN, and you're on your way. Hey, folks, if you want early access to episodes as they drop, click that subscribe button, join us, and together we'll fix the broken U.S. healthcare system. We'll see you on the next one.
Get ready to take control of your healthcare. Here's your host, Ray Kober.
And we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Broken Healthcare. My name is Ray Kober. I am your host, and my guest today is Sanju Sriram. Sanju is the CEO and co-founder of Simple Tax Suite, where she's building an IRS-authorized tax compliance platform that TPAs and benefits brokers can use as a value-added service for their clients. Sanju and her team use AI-powered infrastructure to turn complex federal tax obligations into fully automated, compliant workflows, helping TPAs and brokers eliminate manual, error-prone processes while delivering more value to the employers they serve. Through their healthcare-focused division, Simple 720, they handle mission-critical IRS filings tied to self-funded and level-funded health plans, moving what used to take days of paperwork into minutes through a fully electronic IRS-authorized process. Today, we're going to talk about how TPAs and brokers can differentiate themselves, reduce compliance risk for clients, and turn something historically painful into a real competitive advantage. Sanju, welcome to the big show.
Thank you. Thank you, Ray.
All right. And thank you for being here, truly, because it's about 3 degrees here in New York City. And Sanju's not used to this. She's coming from where?
San Francisco,
Beautiful,
California.
beautiful sunny California to frigid cold New York. Thank you for making the trip. I'm glad that your travel worked out and that you're here in one piece. So before we get into the whole tax thing, you know, I'm a student of the game of life, and people fascinate me. So how'd you get here? Did you know you were going to be this when you grew up? You know, when you were a little kid, you have a little 4-year-old or a little 4-year-old girl. And so when you're a kid and you're thinking about, I mean, no one's thinking about taxes when they're a kid, but and really truly taxes is not your kind of forte or entry into this whole thing. You're a technologist, from what I understand. As you're a kid thinking about like the future, what are you thinking about?
Oh, growing up, I always wanted to work in gaming, in entertainment. I wanted to make movies and video games, and then I went to engineering school. I come from a software engineering background. I used to work as a technical director for a huge gaming company in Silicon Valley, and then we started working with the IRS, and then my main vision was...
Wait a second. You don't go from working as a tech in Silicon Valley to started working with the IRS. You're leaving out a little something there. What's the connection between that leap from technology to working with the IRS?
I'm still in the technology space.
Yep.
And I really enjoyed working in gaming. But then... We started partnering with the IRS on certain excise taxes, and I was doing that when I still had my full-time job. I was working in the gaming industry. And then I saw one thing that really wanted me to get into tax technology was I have an engineering degree. I am not that stupid. But I look at some of these tax forms, I don't understand it at all. They don't make sense to me. I don't understand IRS instructions. And I'm like, if I can't understand this, then what about small businesses? What about people for whom this is a mandatory compliance? They have to understand it, but they don't. So can I use some of my software engineering skills? Can I use technology to simplify that? So that's where the vision started. And then the more we started working with the IRS, it's actually, it turned out to be more interesting than I originally thought. I'm like, tax is so boring. Do I really want to work in it? This is exciting space. We're solving a clear problem, and we have IRS to partner with. So it's going to be a win-win for a lot of people. So yeah.
Interesting. And it's what I pick up there is I think that, the two inevitabilities in life are death and taxes, right? That's the big joke, right? And no one finds you could throw insurance in the same category, right? No one finds it exhilarating, right? It's not, this isn't something that really, pumps your nads like, taxes, wonderful. But I think when you identify a shortcoming, as you have, there's a disconnect there, right? To your point, you're an engineer, and don't kind of play that down. Wear that as a badge of honor, because not everyone can be an engineer. It's a lot of work. You have to have a certain level of kind of aptitude going in, and that's props to you. And you're saying to yourself, hey, I don't understand this stuff. So the average person probably doesn't understand it either. So that's key, because you identified a need. And there's so many products and services out there that I just think are, people piling on. I see an opportunity, I'm jumping on the bandwagon. But it's rare that you come across someone that really has an aha moment. They identify that there's a need for something that is not out there. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm assuming that you're kind of, I don't know that you're the only provider of this type of thing, but it sounds to me like you've found a void that you've tailored a solution for to fill that void, and now you're serving the greater good when it comes to helping businesses be compliant with taxes. Am I on the right track there?
Yeah, totally. And Ray, I always get this question. Did you always want to be a CEO? Did you always want to work on startups? And my answer is always no. No, I don't. I was working in gaming. I was working for 2 hours, playing video games for 6 hours.
That sounds like fun.
A lot of money. So
right.
If I'm going to work 12 hours a day, if I'm going to partner with the IRS, if I'm going to work on my own company, then I have to be like 200% sure that it's solving a clear problem. That's the only way I can, it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you, but then it gives you a lot of joy, because you feel like, hey, I'm solving a clear problem. It's not just another company out there, but it's solving something that's mandatory, something that's not glamorous, but it's a real compliance problem.
Yeah, so let's dive into that a little bit more, because you mentioned PCORI, PCORI when we talked before we jumped on here. Tell us a little bit more about that. What is it? And what does a CFO or a finance professional that's listening in or tuning in on YouTube, what should they know? What do they need to know about compliance as it pertains to their business? And are we talking about businesses of all sizes? Is this particularly important for large and enterprise businesses, or really is kind of size agnostic? Like if you're out of compliance, a penalty is a penalty, and you don't want to be on the wrong side of that.
Right. Patient-centered outcome research fee. It's a mouthful.
It is.
So it's reported on Form 720, excise taxes. It was introduced as part of Obamacare. So there are 66 different excise tax category, and this is one out of the 66 different categories, and it's mainly for self-insured companies. It doesn't matter what the size is. You can be a huge company or you can just be a little startup. But if you offer self-insurance to your employees, you are required to report this and pay it's called the PCORI fee, and pay that before July 31st of every year. And our platform, we partnered with the IRS and we built a little cloud-based software which will let you electronically file your PCORI fee and get the IRS-authorized submission ID, the receipt from the IRS, instantly within just a couple of minutes. And excise tax, all taxes are annoying and boring. I get that.
Yep.
But the thing with excise taxes are they support very specific initiatives. For example, the PCORI fee, it supports healthcare research. Even when there was COVID and the government had to spend a lot of money for building vaccines and all that research, a portion of that was actually taken from the PCORI fee. So it's a very important excise tax. Reporting it, it can be a little hard because Form 720 is this 15-page form which has all 66 different excise taxes in them, from oil and gas to health insurance to indoor tanning salon to cruise lines. And then you have to know what the right line that applies to you. You have to calculate the taxes. It can take days, and then you mail it to the IRS. And also, the IRS is going through a shortage, a staffing shortage. So a lot of mails are not even getting processed. So that's why we partnered with the IRS and we built a 2-minute electronic filing platform.
Wow. 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
That's it.
If it takes any longer than 2 minutes, then you're wasting your time on taxes. Like, who wants to spend more than 2 minutes on taxes?
I don't want to spend any time on taxes, but unfortunately, it's a necessary evil, right? I have people for that, but ultimately, I think one of the keys to being successful in business and in life is understanding how to navigate taxes, right? Tax code. I don't know, recently, Trump was talking about a tax credit or allowing regular folks to deduct interest on their car payments. And he, said during his speeches, Trump is always kind of patting himself on the back of the shoulder. He said, I'm the king of, tax, what did he say? Tax loopholes or blah, blah, blah. And the truth is, whether you love Trump or hate Trump, the reality is Warren Buffett is famous for saying that he pays less in taxes than his secretary, right? Or receptionist or executive assistant. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, right? But what is he talking about? He's talking about the wealthy being able to leverage tax code to their advantage. And we're not talking about doing anything illegal. We're talking about coloring within the lines and playing by the rules of the game. What you're talking about is something that's simply a requirement. And what percentage of businesses would you say are aware of this requirement, or are they leaving it to their tax professionals? And what percentage of tax professionals are aware of this requirement? And what is the what are the percentages? I'm not sure that but are businesses seeing penalties because they're not in compliance? And what do those penalties look like?
Yeah. So the thing is, a lot of tax professionals, CPAs, they're really familiar with the business and personal taxes, but excise taxes are they're kind of like this black box. You think you know about it, but then you're not 100% sure. But when it comes to the PCORI fee, when it comes to excise taxes, 720, a lot of TPAs and insurance brokers actually take care of it for their clients, not their CPAs. And then some insurance brokers and TPAs just tell you, hey, we don't know how this thing works. I want you to figure it out. Or some of them would just like, hey, I can fill out the paper form for you with the right data, and then you can sign and mail it to the IRS.
Right.
But it's very easy to miss this because people always think about, oh, in April, I have to file my business taxes. I have to file my personal taxes.
Right.
But then excise taxes they're usually due every quarter. But then the PCORI is mainly due in the second quarter, which is due on July 31st. So a lot of them are not very familiar with the excise taxes or even the PCORI fee. And the last thing you want to do, Ray, is owe the IRS any money.
True that.
They have been great partners. I love working with the IRS, but I will tell you, their penalties more than any credit card companies. They have compounded interest on penalties for every day.
So you're saying Uncle Sam is worse than Jamie Dimon?
Oh, totally. Like if you forget paying off your credit card, first pay off the IRS. Like
Right.
you don't want
You don't want to get on
owe
the wrong
them
side of
anything.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, we've been working with a lot of companies that until they get an audit or a penalty notice from the IRS, they have no idea what this is. They're like, what is excise tax? Why did I get this? Like a lot of people who called me, they're like, I got a letter from the IRS saying I have not paid my PCORI fee. What is a PCORI fee? It sounds weird.
It sounds like a disease.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. So that's their first, that kind of, their first taste of what this even is. This is like something out of left field. Nobody likes getting letters from the IRS, by the way. It very rarely has a check inside. Very rarely. It's usually not good news. So people call you, obviously, and they must be flustered. Like, hey, I just got, this notice. I don't know what it is. And then how does that conversation typically go? And I'm imagining the folks that are calling are the people who actually get the letters, who are business owners or people in charge of, finance and that sort of thing.
It typically goes both two ways. One is, what is this letter? Why did I get all this penalty? I didn't know that I was supposed to file this. And they say this after not filing this for years, right? So at that point, there's tons of penalties. There's tons of interest on penalties. Telling you, worse than a credit card company. Or it also goes the other way where they're like, my insurance broker did not tell me about this. My TPAs did not tell me about this. And guess what? They didn't know about this either. So
Wow.
Again, that's the part that I really want to solve. It's not just, hey, here's a platform for filing your excise taxes, cool. But it's also about educating the community. Like, hey, if you are in this business, then here's a mandatory compliance for you. And here's a really simple way to do it.
Right.
And just do it. It takes you 2 minutes every quarter. Just take care of it. And then you never get a letter from the IRS.
Yeah, that's amazing. And time is money, right? So if what you're saying is true, and I 100% believe you that this is a 2-minute exercise, if it's something that can save hours or days of, sifting through paperwork to complete this form, that's the beauty of technology, right? It's that you in the background have design software to make the very complex very simple. And so that's just amazing. And so if you're a TPA out there or you're a large broker out there with a big client base, I think something that's very much in the limelight right now is compliance in the healthcare space, right? Once upon a time, 401k plans or, retirement accounts, it was like the Wild West, and you had, finance brokers out there charging crazy fees until there were regulations passed and there were crackdowns, and that was very, very heavily regulated for a very long time. Healthcare kind of fell under the same umbrella, but no one was paying attention to what was going on in healthcare, and so with the passage of the CAA in 2021, that was kind of a wake-up call that, hey, there's a lot that needs to be done to ensure that you are performing your fiduciary obligation to your policyholders, to your employees with respect to spending healthcare dollars appropriately. It's a it is a very hot topic in the industry right now. This kind of goes hand in hand with that, because I think when you go from the fully insured world and you kind of leave the protections that the insurance carriers provide in that world for the most part, and you go self-funded, it's not as simple as just kind of flipping a switch and saying, oh, okay, now we're self-funded. You have to be sure that you're partnering with the right TPA, with the right broker, and that these boxes are being checked, because under the CAA now, if it's determined that plan dollars were not spent appropriately in the fiduciary best interest of the client, of the employees, members of the board who sit on that committee that plans for healthcare can be named personally in lawsuits. Mm-hmm. And so this is huge. Like you could just kind of have an honorary position on a board that is part of the oversight for a health plan and find yourself named in a lawsuit because you didn't know what your fiduciary obligation was. And so people who aren't paying attention to this, and we're still in the early innings of the lawsuits and the litigation, but I've been told by people who are attorneys that are insiders, brace, brace for impact, because it's coming. And so when you talk about the penalties associated with not complying, it seems ludicrous, right? Because you're paying huge penalties that could easily be avoided with a 2-minute exercise, right? Why would you do that?
Right. And compliance is also an opportunity cost, right? Like, I have to deal with PCORI. I have to deal with Affordable Care Act filings. I have to deal with 5500s. I have to deal with 5330s. These are like 4 common forms that all self-insurance companies, they have to deal with. And this has nothing to do with their business. This is not going to help them with their revenue, with their customers. This is just an opportunity cost. And my whole thing is, like, as a business owner myself, I hate doing anything that's not adding me customers or adding value to my business. But this is mandatory. I have to take care of it. So that's why we started with the PCORI, the excise tax 720. But then when we started onboarding a lot of customers, they were like, we love this 2-minute workflow. By the way, we also have Affordable Care Act filings, 1094, 1095 to deal with. We have 5500s with Department of Labor. We have 5330s with the IRS. We still, can we have a 2-minute workflow for them? So this is the request we started getting from a lot of self-insured companies. And that's why to our Simple Tax Suite, we started adding these ACA filings, 5500s and 5330s. We started adding all this in addition to 720 PCORI.
Whoa, that's pretty cool.
Right.
So it's not just the PCORI stuff. It's the 5500 and what are the other forms?
5500 with Department of Labor, 1094, 1095, which are ACA, Affordable Care Act filings with the IRS, and 5330s with the IRS. It's all the compliance that are mandatory, but you don't want to deal with.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, and that's interesting because, as a broker that's been in the business for longer than I care to say, but quarter of a century practically, I get these requests from clients, can you help with this? Can you help with that? So if you're not a mega broker, right, you're not a multi-billion-dollar broker with skyscrapers in Manhattan, but you're a small shop. Can you help those guys too?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You can.
It really doesn't matter whether you're a huge company with a huge compliance team or you're just a small business and it's just you taking care of everything. Compliance is an opportunity cost regardless
Yeah.
of your size, right? We've worked with so many different huge firms and also small firms where they went from days of dealing or even like months of dealing with paper to just like, 2 minutes, 10 minutes a quarter. And which means people from their compliance team, they could take care of more with the same resources they have. And also they don't have to worry about doing the same paperwork every year. Like it's just, it saves them time, it saves them money, and it also keeps the IRS happy. This is one thing, like the last thing you want to do is send paper to the IRS. Every week I have some kind of conversation with the IRS where I hear papers are bad. I can't believe people are still sending us papers. We look at them. We don't have time to look at them. It's just don't send paper to
Right.
the IRS.
Right.
So that's why the IRS partnered with us, and they have invested a lot into these 2-minute filing platforms. And the reason for that is they don't have the resources to even look at papers anymore. So simplifying compliance is not just our vision. It was a vision we crafted in partnership with the IRS.
Tell me a little bit more about that. Like, is that partnership initiated on your end? Did they reach out to you? Were you on their radar somehow? And how does that work exactly? If you're a partner with the IRS, am I to assume that your filings are rubber stamped and that, this will automatically go through because you're a partner of the IRS? So is there a trust factor there, if you will? Because obviously, it's major headlines, right? We know that the government is scaling back on jobs, particularly the IRS has been impacted. And, the population is not going down, it's going up, and more businesses are coming online every year. They just don't have the resources. So dig into that a little bit for me. Like, how did that partnership come about, and what does it mean to your clients? Not, the speed and the convenience is one thing, right? But the big picture is speed and convenience, wonderful. We want to know that it's done accurately and that it's done right and that it's going to pass muster with the IRS.
Right. So almost 50 to 70% of the excise tax team of the IRS was let go last year.
Oof.
Their excise tax team was just, it almost shrunk to nothing. But still, the IRS continues to invest in technology, in engineering. And that tells you that having people, scaling people, having them look at mails and papers and respond and go, this signature doesn't look right, this data doesn't look right, and keep going back and forth with penalties and audits, that's just not going to work anymore. The IRS doesn't have the bandwidth. Even the taxpayers, they don't have the bandwidth to play that game anymore. So the IRS invested in it's called the modernized e-filing platform. They've invested a lot of time and money and energy into building these platforms. And we're an IRS-authorized electronic filing provider. So we went through a great certification and onboarding process to even partner with the IRS and become an extension of the modernized e-filing platform. And the reason we put in all this effort is because this whole paper forms and going back and forth with penalties and audits, it's just not going to work. It's costing the taxpayers their time and energy. It's costing the IRS their time and energy.
It's counterproductive.
Right. So even through all the staffing cuts and everything, they continue to invest in, the IRS calls it the no paper initiative. They continue to invest in that. They continue to invest in technology. And that's a really good thing. That's where our vision aligns, right? Like, we understand that taxes have been around for a really long time and there is a legacy way of doing things. But we're trying to enhance that with technology. We're trying to also enhance that with AI. I mentioned this line to someone.
Taxes have been around as long as time.
Right.
I think if we go back to the Stone Age, someone would tax that rock.
Right.
That's not your rock. It's my rock. Want that rock? Got to pay me a tax for that rock.
Right.
It's been around forever. Like really, think about it. Taxes have been around forever, and it's just a necessary evil. It's something that we have to deal with. But this is fascinating because it's a sign of where we are in the evolution of people and of the times. We're in the 21st century, and we're at a point where paper is arcane. It's archaic. It's yesterday's news. And so it sounds to me like you're on the, just kind of on the leading edge of this wave. Are there other firms like this out there, or that are really kind of focused specifically on this? Are you the first that you know of? Do you have a ton of competition? I mean, I'm in the industry a long time. I've never heard of a service like yours catering specifically to healthcare before.
We're the only cloud-based IRS-authorized electronic filing provider that has everything that benefits and compliance teams need, from the patient-centered outcome research fee on 720 to Affordable Care Act filings to 5330 with the IRS and 5500s with Department of Labor. Just one platform that has everything that you need. And also, plus, it's not just, hey, here's another platform. The core vision of our technology, the core vision of our business is a few-minute filing workflow. Because my personal vision, and I say this at least 10 times every week, if it takes you more than a few minutes to file with taxes and deal with compliance, you're wasting your time. Because I don't want to take more than a few minutes, and I don't want anyone to take more than just a few minutes to deal with these compliance.
Huh. So it sounds unbelievable, right? That you've built this software technology that really distills this process into just a few minutes. So is it a few minutes to gather the necessary data inputs? Does your software connect with accounting systems, QuickBooks, that sort of thing? How exactly does it work?
Getting the data into our software, we have a few options. Yes, we can connect directly with Workday, with Intuit, QuickBooks, Xero. We can connect directly with these accounting software and pull the transactions, calculate the tax rates. We can do all that. And also for people, hey, I don't want to deal with all these connections. Do you just have a spreadsheet option where I can upload my transactions? Yes. So once we get the data, we automatically consolidate the data. We classify what is taxable and what is not. That way the taxpayers, they don't have to do that work. And also we pull direct tax rates from IRS tax rate services. So we all, PCORI, for example, it changes every year. The rate changes every year. So we don't want taxpayers keeping track of these tax rates. So we calculate all that. So if there is a simple way for us to get access to your transactions, for example, PCORI, all we need is just the number of lives covered. And then we will take care of everything else. For ACA filings, we need the insurance information, like what are the different people in your company and what health insurance are they on. So once we have that data, we will take care of everything else. And then I was talking to the IRS about this a few days ago. The best time to prevent an audit is before you submit that filing. It's not after. So we have also built our own internal AI model that we run on top of all the tax returns, even before they're submitted to the IRS. And it will look at common penalties, common audits, triggers, and it will analyze the data to see what's taxable and what's not, if everything's been reported properly. And the AI is still in the beta version. We rolled it out to a few of TPAs and insurance brokers. It almost predicted audits and penalties 84% of the time, even before the filings got submitted to the IRS.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Episode of Broken Healthcare Podcast is brought to you by Benefixa Healthcare Consultants. Visit benefixa.com to learn what's possible. Reduce the cost of healthcare for your organization, deliver better outcomes for your people, and yes, design health plans that give your people a path to $0 out-of-pocket costs for healthcare. Visit benefixa.com today. And so, do I think of you as a startup company? Do you have clients that you can name drop, or you here just kind of as an initial launch? Hey, I need people.
No, we work with a lot of Fortune 500 companies. We have processed more than 5 million excise tax filings.
Holy
We've
crap.
submitted more than 5 million filings to the IRS.
Wow.
We work with E&Ys and Deloitte's and PwC's and Coca-Cola's and Fords of the world. But then it's what gives me a lot of personal satisfaction is we work with a lot of small businesses. I hear from a lot of small businesses going, you know what, I used to pay thousands of dollars to my CPA so they can help me with this filing. I can do this on my own. It costs me $60 and it takes me 5 minutes to file my own excise taxes and just not have to think about that ever again.
Wow.
And that personally gives me a lot of joy because as a business owner, those are the kinds of technologies that I would be very much interested in, something that just takes away my opportunity cost so I don't have to think about anything other than growing my business.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game, right? You want, as a business leader, any kind of time that is sacrificed on stuff that is not the core focus of your business is time wasted. And what's that opportunity cost? So it may even be worth it for someone to say, well, it cost me $10,000, but my account is handling it and my time is more valuable than that. But now as a business leader, if you could say, well, that $10,000 cost is now $60, well, that's a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
By a considerable multiple. So that's huge. And I'm just kind of thinking, though, if your tech is that good and you are a partner and you have this amazing client list that you just kind of shared with us, I could see this as a profit center in the business of a TPA or a broker who's helping their clients through your service keep their clients compliant and be able to do this, for a fee, right? So I'm just spitballing here. I don't know if you have anybody doing this, but my entrepreneur cap is on. And I'm thinking, well, if I'm a TPA and I'm managing a book of business with hundreds or thousands of clients, or I'm a broker and I have dozens or hundreds of clients, and I could offer this as a service, they could tick a box. That's a profit center in your business. And you're taking a huge weight off of them because they know that it's done and dusted. It's taken care of.
Right. We work with a lot of TPAs and insurance brokers, and we've built custom portals for them. So what TPAs and insurance brokers, they've done two things in the past. One, hey, we don't know what's 720. We don't know what's PCORI. It sounds weird. We don't want to deal with it. Or they've also been like, you know what, we'll just fill out the paper for you and then we'll give it to you so you can sign it and mail it to the IRS. We worked with a lot of TPAs and insurance brokers, and we've built like a custom portal for them where they can file their own, the clients can just log in and file their own 720s. The TPAs and insurance brokers can file on their behalf. They can do thousands and thousands of PCORI 720 filings, even ACA and 5500 and 5330 filings in just a few minutes on behalf of their clients. So for a lot of small to medium-sized TPAs, this has actually been an added revenue, added service to their existing suite of products. And for the big ones, this has just been, hey, I had a whole team to take care of this, and it was a nightmare for me to deal with this. Every July, Now I don't have to think about it. I'll give you the data. You have your own portal. My clients can just come to that portal, click a button. That's it. Their excise taxes are filed every year.
Wow. And there's also a 5300, is 5330. Is that what is that? What's a 5330?
It's a form filed with the IRS. It's when you don't follow the right reporting strategies, then you are required to file 5330. It's kind of funny because a lot of businesses and taxpayers, they don't follow the right reporting strategies. So it's
What does that even mean? Follow the right reporting strategies. Like that sounds, again, so I'm a healthcare consultant. I don't know about tax compliance. I rely on my accounting team to kind of help me with any of that stuff. What kind of unpack that for us? What do you mean by that?
So if you, let's say you have 100 employees in your company
Yep.
that you offer health insurance and their dependents, and the health insurance is like, hey, 3 months after they start the job, I'm going to give them full time and give them health insurance. And then every February, they're switching their health insurance from this plan to another plan.
Mm-hmm.
All these things, you have to report them correctly to the IRS. Everything. They want to know what is going on in your company. How many people do you have? You have to properly report them on your 720 excise taxes. Every single piece of this information has to be reported correctly. And it's understandable that it's very easy to mess this reporting up. And then when you do, you're supposed to file a 5330 with the IRS to correct whatever you have not properly reported.
I see.
And I know a lot of businesses that file like thousands of 5330s with the IRS because they just did not report something correctly. And it's not really their fault because this is a lot of data, and this is a lot of ever-changing data.
So what prompts that 5330 filing? Is it a letter from the IRS saying you owe us penalties and interest and blah, blah, blah? What prompts that 5330?
Don't wait for a letter from the IRS.
Folks, if you learn nothing at all today, don't wait for a letter from the IRS.
Or don't send paper to the IRS. Don't send paper to the IRS. Don't get paper from the IRS.
Got it.
Yeah. But yes, if the IRS sends you a letter saying, hey, you haven't reported this correctly because there is a mismatch between your 720s and your 1049, 1094 and 1095s, then yeah, that's bad. Because now the IRS knows that you haven't reported something correctly. But a lot of 5330s, the businesses themselves would report it when they feel like when they look at their payroll systems, their employee transaction systems, and they're like, oh, wait, we did not do this correctly. Oh, wait, there was an additional person here that we offered health insurance, but we did not report that on our ACA filings. So a lot of times as businesses are figuring out, hey, oops, I messed up, they file 5330s with the IRS directly. And then the worst case would be if they forget to do all that and then the IRS finds out and then they send you a letter.
We don't want letters from the IRS. It's the last thing we want. Because, and it's never, hey, you're too young for this, but there was an old Odd Couple episode, Felix and Oscar, right? So complete opposites. Oscar is a filthy pig and Felix is neat as a pin. And Felix gets called down to the IRS office and he's going out of his mind. Oh my God, I must have done something wrong, blah, blah, blah. And he gets there and they basically do everything but have a marching band for him because his tax return is filed so perfectly. Everything is color coded. There's everything is super organized. And this is way before electronic filing. So it just kind of brings that to mind. The idea is you want to be Felix Unger to the IRS. You want them to love you. And if they love you, then you're not going to get that nasty letter from them saying that you're out of compliance, you owe penalties and interest. That's never a fun thing. And particularly when you're a business, I almost feel like, you know, I love this country. I love the opportunities and the freedoms that it gives us. But I feel like the more successful you are, now you go from kind of a solopreneur to an entrepreneur, and you have a small team and your business is building. And now you go from a small team to a large team and your business is building. And now you have dozens of employees. And then you a little further up and you have hundreds of employees, then thousands of employees. And I feel like as your business is growing, you're more and more in the crosshairs of the IRS, just for one example, right? Because if you think about it, they're not auditing small fries. They don't have the resources to audit small fries, right? Typically, unless, you know, their system, I guess, sees a red flag. You know, there's a brilliant software engineer like you that kind of develops software to say, no, this $250,000 business, it's impossible for them to have $150,000 expense. Something is wrong there. Bang. We're flagging that. But I feel like you get to a certain level of success and you're more and more underneath the magnifying glass, and you become a more prime target for the IRS to do an audit or conduct an audit. And I feel like your service, to a certain extent, helps alleviate that for these filings that you're doing that are electronic, because you did go through this certification process. You are a partner of the IRS. It's almost like one less thing to worry about as a head of finance, a CFO, someone that is kind of in the business of making sure that the financial house is in order. So it seems to me to be a very valuable service that's discounting, the time is money thing, which is huge in and of itself. But to be able to have that peace of mind, really, of knowing that this is taken care of, is a huge piece of that. And I guess it's testament to why you have the client list that you have, right? And some of the top, financial accounting firms out there using your services. It also speaks volumes, I think, to the tech, right? Because if it were something they could do in-house, I'm sure they would, but it couldn't have been that easy, right?
Right. We go through a huge certification process. There is personal background checks on me. There are background checks on our security. There are all these technical evaluation that we go through before we can officially partner and be an extension of the IRS to process taxpayer information. And also, it's funny you brought up IRS and papers. I recently saw a picture. This was in Kansas, IRS Paper Processing Center. There's a huge pile of papers just sitting there for days with no one to even look at it. And when you talk about getting penalties and audits from the IRS, for example, July 31st is the PCORI 720 filing deadline. If you don't file that before July 31st, August, you're getting automated penalties and audits. But if you send the paper to the IRS, the paper is sitting there with no one to look at it. But then the automated penalties and audits are going out. And it's also not very efficient for the IRS, because now, hey, here are papers and I have no one to look at. And then the audits have gone out. Now I get responses to that. Like, now I'm getting more paper. So it's just almost like a catch-22 that you're playing with the IRS.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. And if you think about it, like, that's exactly right. You filed on time, but it's sitting in a stack of paper somewhere that no one's going to look at for a while. And in the meantime, the system doesn't know that you were compliant. And so it's stacking penalties and interest. And now it's going to be your responsibility to go and show them that postmark, proof of receipt. And then, it's time, it's energy, it's wasted. It just doesn't make sense. I remembered what Trump said. Trump said, "I'm the king of deductions." The king of deductions, right? It's just like, I love deductions. And what he was saying is, the average worker out there, if a W-2 employee doesn't have the same tax advantages that a small business or a business owner has in write-offs. And so to be able to write off, interest on a car payment is big. And I agree with that. And that's love Trump, hate Trump. That's kind of a nice thing if that goes through for, for our fellow citizens that could use a little tax break here
Absolutely.
and there.
Yeah. And again, love Trump, hate Trump. Trump signed an executive order that's effective from September 30th of 2025. No more papers. No more paper checks to the IRS. No more paper refunds. Trump is not a fan of the paper. The IRS is not a fan of the paper. I am personally not a fan of paper anything.
Yeah.
Because it costs the IRS billions of dollars to even process these papers on time. And then it also puts the taxpayers in a really bad situation because now they're getting all these penalty letters. But in their head, I sent the IRS a paper. Why am I getting penalties? So it costs a lot in time and money and energy for both the taxpayers and the IRS.
Yeah, it's super efficient for sure. So listen, I don't invite folks on the podcast to like do a sales pitch, right? This isn't about that. It's about getting to know my guests, and then the audience gets to know my guests. And if there's something that makes sense, then it should be kind of obvious. And in this case, again, not selling, it seems like a no-brainer to me to be a TPA and want to have a partnership with your organization, or be a broker and have a partnership with your organization, or for the one-offs, for the small business owner that might be listening and saying, hey, I need that, and just know again that they can kind of easily engage your platform, pay a fee, and know that it's done and over is awesome. But now I want to get to know a little bit more about you, because the gaming thing particularly fascinates me. And you did say making a lot of money doing the gaming thing. Talk to me about kind of where the journey, is that where the journey began, the technology journey in as an employed person in the gaming space? Is that where kind of it all started? And just give us a peek at that world.
I come from a software engineering background. I used to work as a software engineer, director, VP. In gaming, I was a technical director. I was leading this data and AI for gaming. It's a really fun space to be in because.
But help me understand what that means. Like, if you tell me you're a window washer, I can connect those dots. If you tell me that you're an auto mechanic, I know what that is. When you say that you're a technical director of a gaming company, what does your daily life look like? What you go to work, and are you working remotely at this point? Is this pre-COVID? Is it post-COVID? Give me a day in the life, and what types of stuff you're looking at. What kind of problems are you trying to solve?
Gaming. So a lot of people know about the glamorous side of gaming. It's you sit on your Xbox and you're playing. The thing with gaming is it generates terabytes and terabytes of data in the background. So my team, the one that I was leading, we were responsible for collecting that data, processing that real time, and making customer models out of that data, which will help us understand a player that's sitting in front of his Xbox. And our goal, again, as a mom, I don't want this, but as an engineer, my vision was someone sitting in front of my game. I don't want them to leave. I want them to be so addicted to my game. I want them to do a lot of in-game purchases. I want to understand real time. If Ray's playing my game, real time, I want to make a Ray model, and I want to make sure the spend propensity of Ray goes up, and also the churn comes down significantly for gamers like Ray. And I want to do this real time. So that's the team that I was leading, where we were getting terabytes of data every second, and we were throwing away the garbage, turning that into data that makes sense, and feeding them into machine learning models real time, and getting feedback from these machine learning models, and using that to change the gaming experience real time. So it's tons of data processing on a daily basis. It's dealing with everything but the glamorous side of gaming.
That sounds like a dirty business.
No, that's why I played a lot of video game when I was working. Like,
Right.
I would work for an hour and then I needed my 15 minutes gaming break, because I'm like, I can't stare at data all day. I need to see the front end, the beautiful side of gaming.
So were you addicted to any? Are you addicted to any games still? What was your faves?
NBA 2K is one of my all-time favorite.
Okay.
I used to work for 2K games. NBA 2K, Borderlands, Grand Theft Auto is my all-time favorite. Red Dead Redemption. I played a lot of video games before I became a mom.
Wow.
Now I'm trying to hide that, because it's like my own little dirty secret. Put the daughter to sleep and then like try to sneak in a little bit of video game before she wakes up.
Right. Oh, that's funny. I see. You got to ask questions. I never knew that about you. I never would have thought that about you. That's wild. And so, well, maybe some parenting advice, because you came from that world. So you can't think that games are evil, right? Is there a balance? Like, if you have a baby, like 4 years old is just a little toddler, but as she gets older, would you expose her to games, or would you would you keep her away? Or if she, kind of said, oh, what's this? I want to, she takes an interest. Would you kind of say, absolutely not? Would you say, yeah, that's cool, but we're gonna set up some boundaries? How would you approach that?
I would expose her to everything in balance. That's always been my parenting trick. Like, if the second I say don't do this, their brains go, I want to do that. So I would expose her to everything. And a lot of gaming is about problem solving, right? Like, you're trying to figure out real time, how do I come out of this alive? How do I kill those aliens and make my way out of this tunnel?
Right.
So you are doing a lot of problem solving. You're, if it's a team game, you're trying to be collaborative and work with all these other people that you've never met. So it gives you a lot of life skills. And also for me, the biggest thing is in life, you can compromise on a lot of things, but to have a great quality of life, you need focus. If I'm sitting here and talking to Ray, I want to be 100% present here. And that's the beauty of life. Because if I'm thinking about something in my head, then I'm not enjoying this moment. And that comes from not going through these dopamine spikes in your body, like having a stable body where you're able to focus. Gaming sometimes can kill that. If you're playing if you're spending too much time in front of video games for a really long time,
right,
it can put you almost like in a like an overstimulated mode.
Sure.
So that's where the balance comes in. I definitely want to expose my daughter to all the best side of gaming, like problem solving and teamwork.
Yeah.
But I also don't want her to overdo it.
That makes sense for sure. It's crazy because there's definitely got to be a balance, right? Everyone is addicted to their devices. It's the screen time is off the charts. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's hours and hours a day. All right. It's on average, I heard numbers like 8 hours a day, which is hard to even imagine, but screen time is huge. And, I think, and I say often that we're living in the best of times. We have just an amazing abundance at our fingertips and an opportunity that if you had to, throw a dart and say, at what moment in human history will I be alive? If you believe in one life, right? And then I don't, I believe in multiple, but that's a conversation for another day. But if you had to throw a dart and you hit 2026, I think you're in a pretty amazing spot. Like, if you think historically about people and what we have, the average person has more abundance at their fingertips than royalty of decades past has had, right? We just talk about creature comforts and all of that stuff. So that's one piece of it. But then I could take the other side of that argument and say, but you also, to your point, are not present in the moment. And there's something beautiful about living off the land and being in touch with nature. And so there's, that's a whole other kind of existence, if you will. But our culture, if you look at Western civilization particularly, we're wired to the teeth.
Right.
It's just, we are wired. And I wonder, in my lifetime, in your lifetime, in your child's lifetime, where that goes, because we're living in very interesting times. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the next 20, 30 plus years look like. Do you have any thoughts? Do you have any thoughts about where you think this carnival ride is going?
I would love to live in an age where there are robots changing babies' diapers. That was my least favorite thing about
Spoken
parenting.
like a true mom. I'm pretty sure Elon's working on that.
Right, because I'm always hearing in Silicon Valley, oh, AI is gonna take our jobs. Robots are gonna take our jobs. I'm like, where? I'm changing these diapers every day. Where are these robots?
That's so funny.
So I mean, I feel like I want to offload things that are, like, for example, compliance is a great example. Like, it's my opportunity cost. I want to offload that so I can focus on my core business. And same thing in life, right? Like, technology brings you a lot of comfort. I wouldn't want to do my laundry and then hang them dry for hours. Like, no, I would never want to do that. I enjoy having washer and dryer. I enjoy having my cell phone. I enjoy having my laptop and internet and everything. And that's going to help me focus on nature more. That's going to help me just sit out and enjoy this little bird out there and not sit there and scroll reels all day. So it's here's all the comfort. I would never want to give up on any of the comfort, but just use that comfort as a comfort and not get reeled into this, oh my God, I'm getting all this, now I'm a part of that. No, these are all technologies that are helping me be the better version of human that I can be.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that completely, because, and I think you kind of hit the nail right on the head with the dopamine hits. Like, video games is one example of that, but being tethered to your device and scrolling Insta feeds and stuff like that, same deal, right? We're creatures that crave this input and this just interaction. That I hope, my hope for humanity is that we figure out a way to make untethering a bigger part of our existence than being tethered. And that's not an easy solve, I don't think, just because the tech is it just gets better and better and better, and it's so compelling. And just think about your interactions 5 years ago, maybe with applications like Microsoft and Excel and Word and all of that, and now think about your interactions with AI models, right? And how big a part of our lives that has become. I know that I'm not in the tech space, and I find myself using ChatGPT on a daily basis, and it's becoming somewhat of a crutch. The good news is, I think, to a large extent, it's making my life better because I'm spending less time kind of in the weeds. And so there's definitely benefit there, but I think it's a balance, right? You just have to kind of figure it all out. So,
oh yeah,
yeah.
Like being in California, there's one thing if I could do all day is hike. Coastal hikes. They're my favorite. Like, Like when people ask me, hey, what do you want to do when you grow old? I want to be in California and I want to keep hiking every single mountain in California. And if technology is going to take care of my house, my compliance, my taxes, my daughter, great.
Yeah.
Or cooking, everything. I'm happy to let technology make my life easier, the chores easier, the everyday things easier.
Yeah.
So I can spend more time being a part of the nature
Oh,
or whatever I
love
enjoy
that.
doing. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Speaking, did you see Alex Honnold
Oh,
scale the
yeah.
type?
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I watch that guy and my feet sweat. It's just like, anyway,
Yeah.
I think we're going to leave it there. It's been, wonderful having you as a guest. Amazing to meet you. I'm thrilled with what you've accomplished. I think it's something that's very unique and it's something that's extremely useful. And hopefully our listeners who are tuning in will reach out and connect, because I think that you have something very valuable, not only for their businesses, but certainly for their clients. So, with that, I want to say thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
and
thank you, Ray. Yeah.
folks, until next time, love always. Take care.
All right, that's a wrap. Hit like, follow, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.